that Donald Trump is shamelessly and criminally ripping off his supporters and donors, enriching himself and his cronies, family members, etc., from his very own campaign? That this whole thing has been, from June 15th of last year, one gigantic, well, I was going to say scam, but I could just as easily say typical Trump business venture? Of course you knew that. This is Donald Trump we're talking about, after all. And it's ensconced in two posts at Red State, one by Susan Wright yesterday. Headline, Trump campaign hemorrhages money with very little payoff. Politically, for the campaign, for the candidate, you could say that Trump the businessman is benefiting handsomely off of Trump the candidate. As far as his candidacy itself, not so much. Now, we know he isn't spending money on ad buys. It seems the National Socialist candidate, heralded by his loyal followers for being a great businessman, i.e. a crony capitalist crook, is bleeding a lot of cash with very little payoff. Now, that's the campaign, his campaign. Understand that. Here's the quote from the London Guardian. Donald Trump's campaign doubled its spending in July, even though the Trumplican nominee still only employed about 80 people, aired no television ads, and maintained ties with his fired campaign manager and the writer who plagiarized part of his wife's convention speech. His campaign lags far behind that of his Democrat rival, Hillary Clinton, whose team spent about twice as much as his did last month. Mrs. Clinton also raised more funds, taking in $52 million for her campaign and Democrats, according to July filings with the Federal Election Commission, while Trump raised $37 million for his campaign and Republicans, close quote. Reports are that the largest spending for the Trump campaign in July was on asking for more money through online donations. I smell a scam in here someplace. Trump is no longer loaning himself money and is now seeking online donations. In other words, more suckers. To that end, his team has employed Giles Parscale, a Texas web design and marketing firm, paying them $8.4 million in July. Brad Parscale, the digital director for Trump's campaign, has also worked for Trump's real estate company since 2011. Trump family members and hangers-on and roadies and groupies and sycophants. Hey, as much as I need money, well, why aren't you on the Trump train? Yeah, well, there's this little thing called integrity and principle. The campaign also paid former campaign manager and current CNN commentator Corey Lewandowski's consulting firm $20,000. Returning to the London Guardian story, the campaign also paid $356.01 to Meredith McIver, an employee of the Trump organization who took the blame for plagiarizing Michelle Obama's 2008 convention speech for use in Melania Trump's 2016 speech. McIver is listed as a co-writer for several of Donald Trump's books. Of course she is. And because of her work as an in-house writer for Trump's private business, the campaign risked violating campaign laws if it had not separately paid her. Oh, gosh. Though the financial documents show little sign that Trump has opened offices around swing states, Trump did show some signs of scaling up for the general election. He paid $100,000 to Cambridge Analytics, a data analysis firm that formerly worked for Senator Ted Cruz and has ties to Robert Mercer, a hedge fund billionaire who supports Trump. He also paid his Alabama state director, Chess Bedsole, $64,000, 3 times his last payment in December, even though Alabama has voted Republican for decades. Close quote. Which makes a lot of sense in Trump land. Conventional wisdom would say resources should be funneled to areas where there needs to be more focus, like swing states. Except there aren't that many swing states anymore. Trump's seen to that. But conventional wisdom is for cucks and rhinos, apparently. In a further rundown of Team Trump's brilliant campaign spending, $2 million were spent on private jets, along with $500,000 for expenses on Trump's private plane. There was $773,000 paid to companies owned by Trump last month. Hint, hint. And a total to date of $7.5 million paid throughout the campaign to companies either owned by Trump or his family members. This is such a bleeping racket. You Trump supporters are just such rubes. Open your eyes, for crying out loud. It's as bad. We can talk about the Clinton Foundation all day long, and I have. You can't hang that. Well, you're really supporting Hillary. No, we've been taking down Hillary. I've been blasting Hillary for the past 25 years. Yeah, my credentials on that score are unassailable. And she is corrupt, and she is filthy, and she is criminal. So is Trump. They're two sides of the same coin, cut from the same cloth. And since Bill Clinton is in this equation, I could say loincloth, but whatever. Of the $18.5 million spent in July, $1.8 million, about 10% of it, were on those dumb hats and other merchandise. Concluding the London Guardian quote, Mrs. Clinton, in contrast, reported 703 staffers, so 9 times as many as Trump, $2 million on travel and signs of new offices. In July, her campaign spent a total of $38 million filing show, mostly on advertising. Last week, Trump spent $4.8 million on his first general election ads, which aired in 4 swing states. Close quote. So, in other words, Hillary Clinton is actually running for president. Donald Trump is taking a dive and enriching himself in the process. And you Trump supporters think that he's actually fighting for you? And what you purport to believe in, which you threw overboard the day you signed on board the Trump train?
Come on! Nice and easy! Don't look down! That's it! You're doing fine!
It's almost like Mrs. Clinton is taking this campaign seriously. Don't you wish, Trumplicans, that your candidate was doing the same thing? Trump's personal finances are still a mystery, wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma. Yes, that was Churchill's description of Russia. Hint, hint. since he claims an IRS audit prevents him from releasing them to the public, even though that isn't true. A recent New York Times story revealed that he's around $650 million in debt to Goldman Sachs and the Bank of China, among other places, other creditors. But otherwise, he's been very guarded with any further information, even though there's no law saying he is prohibited from showing his returns while under audit. In addition to the fact that Hillary Clinton released several years of her own tax returns, not that you can rely on anything to be found within them, but I mean, at least she created the appearance of doing so. She and Bill aren't doing too shabbily, having amassed a small fortune over the years. In 2015, they made $11 million. Too bad they're so entrenched with foreign governments and the down and dirty Clinton Foundation. The wink nod is that they'll stop accepting those donations should, or when, Hillary wins the presidency. Sure, they will. Mrs. Clinton also enjoys the support of several billionaire-backed super PACs. Trump's empty, raging rhetoric has turned off most reliable Republican backers, such as the Koch brothers and Paul Singer, who prefer to spend on races down ballot that Donald Trump is threatening by more and more by the day. Only Robert Mercer is willing to throw any change at Trump's nightmare candidacy, and even though he funds Trump Bart News and has that connection to Trump's campaign through Stephen Bannon, who now serves as CEO of the campaign, a ceremonial position if ever there was one, he has so far only been willing to invest $2 million to a pro-Trump super PAC. No sense in throwing good money after bad, as they say. What is it? How does that expression go? A fool and his money are soon parted. Apparently, big ticket Republican donors aren't fools, but the small donors are. And small Trumplican donors, people who are putting their money where their mouths are when their mouths are in the wrong place, grievously, egregiously in the wrong place, because your minds are out to lunch. Well, here is what your hero, your candidate, is doing with your hard-earned, misdirected dollars. Because when Donald Trump talks about a self-funding campaign, as Streef at Red State posted this morning, he doesn't mean what you think. Now, the salient and most remarkable feature of Donald Trump's life has been his ability to bounce from one business disaster to another, much like a ball ricocheting off bumpers in a pinball machine, while racking up winnings at each bankruptcy. He is a con artist, a scam artist, a grifter, a crook. I mean, it's no wonder he's pushing protectionist, mercantilist, autarkist policies. Fascist policies, really. State corporatism, the technical definition of fascism. Trump is running his campaign in exactly the same way, Trump supporters. Now we go to the Huffington Post, the Huff and Puffers. And yes, I'm fully cognizant of the fact that it is now the media that is actually reporting the truth about Trump that his supporters don't want to hear. It's like, I mean, that's another media irony. Is that it used to be that the media were liberal, but they pretended and they claimed to be objective. And now you have a media that doesn't pretend to be objective in either direction, and now never have we needed an objective media more. And there's no way we can get it. Anyway, from Huffington Post, Trump nearly quintupled the monthly, that means increased 5 times over for those of you in Murrieta, California. Trump nearly quintupled the monthly rent on, or his presidential campaign pays its headquarters at Trump Tower to $169,758 in July when he was raising funds from donors compared with March when he was self-funding, which he really wasn't, but I digress, his campaign, according to a Huff and Puffer review of Federal Election Commission filings. The rent jumped even though he was paying fewer staff in July than he did in March. So his campaign is using less space in July than it was in March, yet he quintupled the rent to himself. It's a great racket if you can get it, right? He's not bilking himself, I'll guarantee you that much, Trump supporters. He's bilking you. You. You are the utter fools, Trump supporters. The Trump campaign paid Trump Tower Commercial LLC $35,458 in March, the same amount it had been paying since last summer, and had 197 employees and consultants. In July, it paid 172. Close quote. You read that? You heard that correctly, Trump supporters. You did. Since Trump started taking outside contributions, he has shed staff and increased the rent on the same space 5-fold. But, of course, being a Trump property, it must be lavishly appointed. And, it's difficult to look at this picture and not think that it's a parody or a joke or something. It's begging for a meme. I mean, you're looking at an unfinished space, shall we say. I mean, totally unfinished. Unfinished and unfurnished. I mean, it looks like a bathroom stall. And there's somebody named John McEntee, a staffer for Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, working at a desk that looks like it could have been pulled out of the dumpster at IKEA. And the walls, I mean, they're just bare. I mean, they're bare concrete. And they're all dirty, and it's not enclosed, and there's no door, and it looks like a bathroom. And there's not even any tile on the floor. I mean, the only part of this picture that looks like you would expect to see in a campaign office is that McEntee himself is well-groomed and wearing a tie and so forth. But otherwise, I guess that's his laptop, is best I can discern. But, I mean, this is unbelievable. Go to redstate.com. It's still on the front page today. Now look at this picture. This is... I mean, the caption says, John McEntee, a staffer for Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, works at his desk inside the Trump campaign headquarters located in Trump Tower on Wednesday, August the 26th of because this is last year. Okay, maybe they fixed it up since then. I hope. God, I hope. Oh, the millionaire frontrunner for the Republican nomination continues his momentum this fall by preparing media ads and holding public appearances throughout the country. That image, this is from almost a year ago, so I really hope it's not still this bad, especially since he's quintupled the rent that his campaign, which means small Trump donors like you people are paying for this. I swear to God, it looks like a men's room. And not a particular, I mean, like a men's room at a gas station. Jeez. How can there be that much? How can there be any place in Trump Tower that is unfinished like this? This looks like a fire hazard. You know, when Trump travels, his campaign ends up paying Trump money for his lodging because you know where he stays. He and his campaign groupies, you know where they stay, right? Back to the HuffPo. In addition to the rent for Trump Tower space in Manhattan, Trump has paid his eponymous golf courses and restaurants, eponymous meaning ubiquitous, meaning they're everywhere, more than $260,000 since his campaign and the RNC struck a joint fundraising deal in mid-May. After he has said so, in other words, the RNC is the facilitator. They're facilitating the scam. After he essentially locked up the GOP nomination. On May 18th, the day the fundraising deal was announced, Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida, was paid $29,715. Trump National Golf Club in Jupiter, Florida, was paid $35,845. And Trump Restaurants, LLC, was paid $125,080, according to FEC records. Such large payments were much rarer when Trump was self-funding. Because, of course, during the primaries, the media, he didn't have to buy anything. The media just gave him $2 billion worth of free airtime. So we didn't really have to spend any money, per se, in the primary campaign. now that he's fundraising, he is shaking you people, you Trump supporters, down like there's no tomorrow. This is what he does. This is Donald Trump's pattern. This is the way Donald Trump does business. He's a crook. He's bilking you Trump supporters. And now, I mean, not financially, now as well as ideologically and politically. You know, I don't have a trusting nature as a general rule. And it's serving me well, especially right about now. Of course, the apples don't fall that far from the tree. This is from Vice.com. Republican Donald Trump has so far paid $7.7 million in campaign contributions. Contributions from Trump supporters to his own companies and children, according to a filing with the Federal Elections Commission. And as the campaign transitions to the general election, those payments are increasing. In May, they totaled at least $1.1 million, nearly 20% of all campaign spending that month. 20%! And in July, another $800,000 came into the Trump brood. In July alone, Trump's campaign paid $169,758.33 in rent to Trump Tower Corporation, LLC, $48,239.77 for rent and catering to Trump National Golf Club in Westchester, $1,000 to Trump Restaurants, LLC, and $428.53 worth of Trump's bottled water, Trump Ice. In May, Trump's campaign spent $3,938.58 at the vineyard run by his son, Eric. Campaign dollars are also funneled to allies of Trump's children. Each month, the campaign spends millions on apparel like the Make America Great Again trucker hats. The manufacturer, Ace Specialty. Ace? Why not Acme? Specialties is owned by Crystal Malfus. Well, that sounds vaguely Iranian, doesn't it? A board member on Eric Trump's charitable foundation. Ooh, well, looks like maybe Islamists are penetrating and controlling the Trump family. What do you think? I don't know, it's just Crystal Malfus. That sounds suspicious, doesn't it, for somebody who has suggested banning Muslims from the country? Not that that would be a bad idea, but the hypocrisy is what we're talking about here. Now, the intertwining of campaign and business takes shape in other ways. Intermingling, I think, is the term that you're looking for. The day after daughter Ivanka gave her speech at the Trumplican convention wearing a dress for her eponymous fashion line, she tweeted about where people could buy it. You know how they describe political conventions as week-long infomercials? I don't think this is quite the connotation that they were going, that you think of. That's obviously the one they were going for. Oh, by the way, Nordstrom.com and Macy's.com quickly sold out. I don't know. I'm not a judge of fashion, but still. So when Donald Trump claims to be self-funding, he's being brutally honest. He's not trying to stop Hillary! He's not trying to become president of the United States. But boy, he's making out like a bandit, isn't he?